The galaxy was burning. For centuries, stars had been places of light and hope. Now, they were only reminders of war. Entire systems had turned into graveyards of broken ships. Smoke and fire drifted across worlds, and the sky itself seemed to carry the scars of endless battles. And at the center of this chaos was Earth. The home of humanity. The birthplace of stubbornness, courage, and survival. But now, it looked finished. Human fleets that once stretched across the stars were gone. Battleships that had carried the flag of Earth with pride were shattered wrecks, drifting lifeless through the void. The last of Earth's spear, its strongest defense, was broken. Across the galaxy, screens lit up with one image. Billions of aliens in distant systems watched as cameras showed Earth's skies covered in fire. Enemy warships filled the orbit, surrounding the last human stronghold. Explosions burned like falling suns. And the voices of the Council were clear. "This is the end of humans," one alien whispered, smug and certain. Finally, another laughed. "The most stubborn species in the galaxy has been crushed." In the great council chamber, filled with towering creatures from 100 worlds, the laughter grew louder. They remembered how humans had resisted again and again. How they had fought when logic said they should surrender. How they had survived things no other species could. But now, none of that mattered. Humanity was surrounded. Humanity was finished. Or so they believed. The battlefield over Earth was silent for a moment. A rare silence, after endless noise. Broken ships drifted. Flames dimmed. Even the enemy's guns paused, as if waiting to watch the final moment of collapse. And then, something strange happened. A shadow. At first, it was small, almost invisible against the endless sky. But it grew larger, falling through the smoke. Soldiers on the ground squinted upward. Enemy commanders checked their scanners, confused. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't debris. It was something else. Something human. A single figure, descending from the heavens. The soldiers below froze. Their weapons lowered. The alien armies stared at the falling shadow. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. For the first time in this entire war, both sides felt the same thing. Confusion. What kind of human would throw himself from the sky in the middle of such a hopeless battle? The shadow burned brighter as it pierced through the atmosphere, flames trailing behind it. Clouds tore apart around the figure as it fell faster and faster. The ground shook as a streak of fire split the heavens open. And then impact. The figure crashed into the battlefield like a thunderbolt. The ground split, dust and fire exploding outward. Soldiers were thrown back, struggling to see through the blinding light. For a long moment, silence ruled once again. Even the alien generals in orbit were speechless, staring at their screens, trying to understand what had just happened. Then, from inside the crater, movement. Slow. Steady. A shape, rising through the smoke. And every soldier, human and alien alike, felt a chill. It was not possible. It should not have been possible. But it was. A man stood there. A human, alone. His body burned, his armor scarred, but his eyes alive with fire. Gasps rippled through the battlefield. Soldiers who had thought humanity finished suddenly felt their hearts racing. Aliens who had been laughing now felt their stomachs twist with unease. Because deep inside, they all knew. Something had just changed. One soldier whispered to another, his voice shaking. "Did you see that? A human fell from the sky." And then the silence broke. The man lifted his head. His voice carried across the battlefield, steady, unshaken, and terrifyingly calm. "Mind if I join the fight?" The battlefield trembled. The crater still smoked, flames curling around broken stones and twisted metal. Every soldier, human or alien, stared at the man who had fallen from the sky. None of them understood how he was still alive. None of them understood what he was. The alien generals inside their warships shouted commands. "Scan it," one barked. "It must be a weapon," another insisted. But scanners failed. No machine could explain him. Because he wasn't a weapon. He wasn't a fleet. He wasn't even an army. He was only a man. And yet, when he moved, the entire battlefield froze. Dust drifted around him as he climbed from the crater. His armor was cracked, blackened by fire, but he walked with slow, steady steps. His helmet split, revealing human eyes, sharp, alive, burning with something far stronger than fear. The alien soldiers whispered among themselves. No human can survive that fall. He should be dead. What is he? The man stopped. He looked at the endless alien armies spread before him. Hundreds of ships hovered in the sky, their weapons pointed down. Thousands of alien troops aimed their rifles at him, fingers trembling on triggers. And then, he spoke. "Mind if I join the fight?" The words were simple, calm, almost casual. But they shook the battlefield like thunder. The alien commander nearest to him snarled and raised his weapon. "Kill him." Dozens of plasma rifles lit up, hurling bolts of fire at the lone man. The air screamed with energy, explosions tore through the ground. For several seconds, the world became nothing but light and death. When the smoke cleared, the aliens expected to see nothing but ash. Instead, the man was still standing. Not a single shot had touched him. The ground around him was torn apart, but he remained untouched, as if the universe itself refused to harm him. The alien commander froze, his weapon trembling in his claws. That's impossible." The man tilted his head slightly. His voice was low, but it carried across the silence. "Impossible? You've seen nothing yet." And then, he moved. Faster than their eyes could follow. One moment, he stood in the crater. The next, he was among them. His fist crashed into the nearest soldier, sending the armored creature flying through the air like broken glass. Panic erupted. Alien troops screamed and opened fire, but every shot missed. The man was a blur, weaving through bullets and plasma, cutting through soldiers as if they were made of paper. The battlefield turned into chaos. One human, only one, was tearing through an army. On the orbiting warships, generals stared in horror at the live feed. Entire fleets, entire planets had failed to stop humanity, yet here was a single human doing what billions had not. This cannot be real, one alien chancellor whispered. He is one soldier, nothing more. Then why are thousands dying at his hands? Another replied, voice shaking. Back on the ground, soldiers tried to retreat, but fear spread faster than orders. They had thought humanity was finished. They had thought the war was won. But now, staring at this impossible figure, they realized the truth. Humans did not die quietly. The man moved like a storm. He grabbed a fallen weapon, turned it against its owners, and cut through machines of war as though they were toys. Enemy tanks rolled forward, cannons glowing, but he leaped onto one, tore the hatch open, and ripped out the pilot with his bare hands. Each act drove terror deeper into alien hearts. One soldier cried out, "He's not a man, he's a demon." But the humans watching, those broken survivors hiding in the rubble, looked at him with new eyes. Their despair began to fade. Their fear began to melt. Hope, something they had almost forgotten, returned. One of the human survivors whispered through tears. "He came back. Humanity isn't finished." And across the galaxy, where countless species watched the broadcast, silence spread. No one laughed now. No one mocked. No one dared to call humans weak. Because every alien watching realized something chilling. If a single human could do this, what would happen if more came? The man stood in the middle of broken enemies, breathing heavily, his figure glowing in the fires of war. He looked up at the ships above, fleets that had thought victory was certain. His voice rose once again, sharper this time, filled with something far greater than anger. "You thought Earth was done. You thought we would break. But you don't understand us at all." He raised his fist toward the sky. "We are just getting started." The battlefield was no longer the same. Moments ago, it had been the grave of humanity. Alien banners flew high, and their armies stood ready to crush the last resistance. But now, everything had changed. Because of him. The man who had fallen from the sky. The impossible soldier. Alien commanders shouted desperately into their comms. "Regroup. Form ranks. Do not let him advance." But their orders meant nothing. Soldiers who had once marched with pride now stumbled backward, fear in their eyes. Their weapons shook. Their voices broke. For the first time in years of war, alien troops were afraid. The man moved with calm purpose. He was not wild. He was not reckless. Every strike, every motion was precise. He fought like someone who had carried war in his bones for a lifetime. A massive alien war beast roared, charging across the field. Its claws could tear a tank apart, its armor like living steel. The ground shook under its steps. Soldiers cheered, believing the monster would end the lone human. But the man did not move. He waited, silent, until the beast was close enough to strike. Then, in a flash, he leaped forward. His fist met the creature's jaw, and with a crack like thunder, the war beast collapsed, broken and silent. The battlefield went quiet. Shock spread through the alien ranks. If their strongest war beast could be killed by one blow, what chance did they have? The man stepped forward, his shadow stretching long across the firelit ground. He picked up a fallen alien blade, its edge glowing with energy, and held it in one hand like it weighed nothing. Alien soldiers fired again, their weapons spitting blue plasma. But he moved too fast. Too sharp. Each shot missed, each attack turned against its user. One soldier screamed as his own blast ricocheted back into his chest. The council chambers across the galaxy watched in silence. Leaders who had mocked humanity now leaned forward, fear tightening their throats. "This cannot be real," one whispered. "No single being can do this," said another. But they were wrong. Because this was not just any soldier. This was a human. The impossible soldier who stood when all others had fallen. On the ground, surviving humans watched in awe. Men and women who had hidden in the ruins lifted their heads, their hearts pounding with new life. They whispered words they had almost forgotten: hope, courage, victory. One young soldier, his arm bandaged and his face pale with exhaustion, whispered to the man beside him, "Do you see him? He fights alone, and he does not fall." The other soldier nodded slowly, tears burning in his eyes. That's what it means to be human. Alien generals, desperate to end the madness, unleashed their machines. Metallic giants thundered onto the field, each one towering over buildings, armed with cannons and blades. The ground shook as they advanced. The man did not hesitate. He ran forward, meeting them head-on. A cannon blast lit the sky, but he dodged it with impossible speed. He climbed one of the machines, tearing through armor with his stolen blade, sparks flying as circuits burned. The machine fell in seconds. Another struck at him with a blade the size of a tower. He caught it with his bare hands. Muscles strained, but he did not yield. With a roar, he twisted, shattering the weapon and hurling the machine backward. The battlefield was chaos, fire, and metal. But through it all, the man never slowed. He was everywhere at once, a storm of flesh and steel. Alien soldiers began to run. Some dropped their weapons. Others screamed into their comms for retreat orders. But there was no safety. No place to hide from the impossible soldier. In the council chamber, silence ruled. Entire species sat frozen, watching their fleets and armies collapse before a single human. At last, one counselor broke the silence. "If one man can do this, what happens if there are more?" No one answered. But all of them thought the same thing. Perhaps humanity was not defeated. Perhaps humanity had only just begun. The man stood atop the wreckage of a fallen war machine, smoke curling around him, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. He looked down at the alien armies breaking apart before him, their pride shattered, their courage gone. And he spoke again, his voice strong, unshaken, and filled with fire. "You call me impossible. But I am only human. And if one human can stand against you..." He raised the glowing blade, pointing it at the sky where alien fleets still hovered. "Imagine what happens when all of us rise again." The battlefield froze. For the first time, the galaxy understood a terrifying truth. Humans were not finished. Humans would never be finished. And the impossible soldier was proof. Far from the battlefield, in the heart of the galaxy, the great council chamber stood. It was a place older than empires, built of crystal and steel, so large that entire ships could have fit beneath its domed ceiling. Here, The rulers of 100 species gathered to watch the war unfold. Their walls were covered with massive screens, showing every corner of Earth's last stand. And now, silence ruled them. The chamber, once filled with arrogant laughter, was frozen in disbelief. Alien eyes, slitted, glowing, compound, or many, stared at the impossible sight on their screens. A single human tearing through armies, scattering fleets, and standing where no one should have survived. At last, one counselor broke the silence. His scaled fingers tapped nervously against the table. This cannot be real. Another counselor, a massive insectoid creature, hissed. No one survives a fall from orbit. No one fights an army alone. What are we seeing? But the answer was already clear. They were seeing humanity, revealed in its truest form. For years, the council had mocked humans. They had called them weak, soft, primitive. They remembered how humans bled more easily than most species, how their lifespans were short, how their worlds seemed fragile compared to the great empires of the galaxy. Yet none of that explained what was happening now. On the screens, the lone human tore down another alien war machine, sparks flying as the giant collapsed in flames. Alien soldiers scattered like frightened animals, their formations broken. The counselors shifted uneasily in their seats. For the first time in centuries, they felt something they had almost forgotten. Fear. One counselor slammed his claw against the table. Send more fleets. End this before it spread. But another shook his head, his many eyes blinking nervously. You do not understand. We already sent more fleets. We sent enough firepower to crush 10 worlds. And yet, one man still stands. The chamber erupted in whispers. Voices overlapped, fear cutting through every word. If one can do this, what of 10? What of 100? What if Earth still hides more? That thought hung in the air like poison. For years, the Council had believed humanity was beaten, surrounded, and broken. Their fleets destroyed, their armies scattered. Earth was supposed to be a dead world waiting for its final blow. But what if that was never true? What if humans had been waiting, watching, preparing? A shiver passed through the council chamber. The insectoid counselor leaned forward, his mandibles clicking. You all laughed at them. You mocked them. You said humans were finished. Look now, does that look finished to you? No one answered. Because on the screens, the impossible soldier was still moving, still cutting down everything that stood before him. One of the younger council aides whispered quietly, his voice trembling. This is why they frighten us. Humans don't know when to stop. The council leader, an ancient being with skin like stone, finally spoke. His voice was low and heavy, carrying the weight of centuries. You fools. You do not understand what we are facing. This is not just one soldier. This is a message. The chamber went silent. A message? One counselor asked. The leader nodded. Yes. A message to the entire galaxy. Even when Earth is broken, even when her fleets are gone, even when her skies burn, humanity still fights. One man can shake an empire. Imagine what happens when they rise together. The words sent chills through the chamber. Across the galaxy, millions of ordinary people, soldiers, workers, children, were watching the same broadcast. And in their hearts, something began to grow. Some felt hope. Others felt terror. But no one could look away. The lone human had become a symbol. A symbol that humans were not finished. A symbol that humans could not be crushed. A symbol that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had underestimated them. The council leaders' eyes narrowed. If we fail to stop this, the galaxy will never laugh at humans again. They will rise. They will fight. And they will change everything. Another voice, small and trembling, whispered the words no one else dared to say. Perhaps it is already too late. The chamber fell into silence again. Only the sound of the broadcast filled the air, explosions, screams, and the steady steps of the impossible soldier. Every counselor felt it now. The fear that maybe, just maybe, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could ever imagine. And as the chamber shook with distant echoes of war, one thought lingered in every alien mind. If one human can do this, what happens when the rest arrive? The battlefield was chaos. Alien warships still filled the skies, their cannons glowing like miniature suns. On the ground, countless alien soldiers poured forward in endless waves, their banners rising high, their roars shaking the air. And yet, none of it mattered. Because in the middle of it all, the lone human kept moving. Every step he took was like thunder. Every strike of his stolen blade cut down another soldier, another machine, another beast. Where he walked, alien armies broke. Where he stood, no enemy dared to come close. It was no longer a battle. It was a storm. And he was its center. Alien commanders shouted desperately through their comms. Do not retreat. Surround him. Bring him down. But their soldiers could not obey. Fear was stronger than their orders. They had fought humans before. They had watched fleets burn, colonies fall. But this was something else entirely. How do you fight someone who refuses to die? A wave of alien tanks rolled forward, massive machines bristling with plasma cannons. They fired in unison, the sky exploding with light. The ground shook, flames engulfed the battlefield. For a moment, even the humans hiding in the ruins believed the lone soldier must have been destroyed. But then the smoke cleared. And he was still there. He climbed onto the nearest tank, ripping open its armored shell with his bare hands. Sparks and fire burst out as he tore the machine apart, throwing its burning pieces into the enemy lines. Soldiers screamed. Commanders shouted. Armies collapsed. The storm was growing. High above, alien fleets unleashed their weapons. Orbital strikes rained down like falling stars, carving craters into the earth. The lone human moved through it all, dodging blasts, leaping across broken ground, using the enemy's fire against them. He was not just surviving. He was winning. The humans watching from the ruins could not believe their eyes. Men and women who had lost everything, families, homes, entire worlds, felt something return to them. Something they thought was gone forever. Hope. One soldier whispered, tears running down his face. He fights for us. He fights for Earth. And slowly, other voices joined. Whispers turned to shouts. Shouts turned to roars. The broken survivors who had hidden for so long began to rise. They picked up discarded weapons, dusted off their armor, and for the first time in years, they charged. For Earth, they cried. The storm spread. The impossible soldier had become more than a man. He was a spark. A fire. And now, that fire leapt into the hearts of every human still alive on the battlefield. The aliens saw it. They saw the tide turning. For the first time, it was not humans who were afraid, it was them. In the orbiting fleets, alien generals argued furiously. Destroy the planet. Wipe them out before it spread. No. If we do, the other species will see us as monsters. It is too late. The fire has already begun. The council chambers across the galaxy shook with unrest. Some leaders demanded immediate retreat. Others demanded more fleets. But none of them could hide the truth anymore. The storm had begun, and it would not end here. Back on the ground, the impossible soldier fought side by side with the newly risen humans. Their voices shook the battlefield. Their courage grew with every passing moment. They were still outnumbered. Still surrounded. Still facing impossible odds. But for the first time in years, it did not matter. Because now they believed again. The lone soldier lifted his glowing blade, pointing it at the alien lines. His voice thundered across the chaos. You thought Earth was broken. You thought we would bow. But you were wrong. His words carried like lightning, striking every human heart. We are not finished. We are the storm. And you cannot stop us. The battlefield erupted. Humans charged forward with new strength, the impossible soldier leading them like a force of nature. Alien lines shattered, their soldiers retreating in panic. From above, the fleets tried one last desperate strike, firing everything they had. But instead of breaking the humans, the fire only lit the storm brighter. The rising storm of Earth. And for the first time in the long war, victory no longer seemed impossible. The battlefield was no longer silent. It roared. The cries of humans echoed across the burning plains, mixing with the clash of steel and the thunder of weapons. Where once there had been only despair, now there was fire. Where once there had been silence, now there was defiance. The impossible soldier was not alone anymore. He led them, what was left of humanity's warriors. Men and women who had hidden in shadows, who had believed their fight was over. Now, they charged with weapons in their hands and hope in their hearts. The aliens were not prepared for this. They had come expecting a slaughter. They had expected to walk through the ashes of humanity. Instead, they faced something far worse. They faced humans who had nothing left to lose. And humans with nothing left to lose are the most dangerous of all. Alien commanders shouted into their comms, their voices trembling. Hold the line. Stop their advance. But their soldiers did not listen. The storm of humans swept forward, led by the man who had fallen from the sky. His blade burned with stolen alien energy, cutting through armored beasts and machines like paper. Every strike shook the ground. Every step drove fear deeper into alien hearts. The aliens fired volley after volley, but the humans did not break. For every soldier who fell, another rose to take their place. For every explosion, their voices grew louder. For Earth, they shouted. For humanity. The battlefield that had once been Earth's grave now began to look like something else entirely. A resurrection. In the orbiting fleets, alien generals could not believe what they were seeing. Their screens showed humans fighting with impossible strength, pushing back armies 10 times their size. Ships that had once hunted helpless refugees now found themselves under fire from humans who had stolen alien weapons and turned them against their owners. This should not be happening, one general hissed. They were finished. We saw it with our own eyes. Then open them wider, another replied bitterly. You are seeing the truth now. Humans do not finish. They fight. In the great council chambers, the silence grew heavier. No one laughed anymore. No one mocked. They had watched humans mocked before every defeat, and now they were watching those same humans turn the impossible into reality. The impossible soldier cut through the battlefield, his voice rising above the chaos. They think they surround us. They think they outnumber us. But look around. He gestured to the humans charging at his side. Men and women who had been broken, now standing tall once more. We are still here. We are still fighting. And as long as we fight, we cannot lose. His words struck harder than any weapon. The humans roared louder, their courage burning brighter. Even the wounded dragged themselves to their feet, joining the storm. The aliens began to falter. Their lines, once perfect and disciplined, broke apart. Soldiers threw down their weapons, retreating into the shadows. Machines, left without pilots, stood abandoned on the field. The turn of battle had begun. Alien fleets in orbit tried to strike again, desperate to stop the tide. But every shot they fired seemed to miss its mark. Every blast only lit the humans brighter, their storm growing stronger. The impossible soldier lifted his blade to the sky. For a moment, the battlefield seemed to hold its breath. Flames burned around him, smoke curled upward, but he stood unbroken, a living symbol of defiance. He spoke only one sentence. You wanted the end of humanity. Instead, you found our beginning. And then, with a roar, he charged forward. The humans followed, their voices shaking the heavens. The aliens fell back, their courage shattered. For the first time in years of war, Earth was no longer losing. The turn of battle had come. And the galaxy was watching. The aliens had seen humans bleed. They had seen humans fall. But what they were seeing now was something they had never imagined. The battlefield glowed with fire, smoke curling high into the broken sky. Yet through the chaos, humans marched forward. They did not look like an army anymore, they looked like a force of nature. Every alien commander shouted the same order. Hold your ground. Stop them at all cost. But fear is stronger than orders. The once proud alien soldiers, armed with superior weapons and numbers, felt their courage slip away. They had been taught that humans were fragile, weak, easy to crush. And yet here were those same humans, pushing them back, one step at a time. The impossible soldier, the man who had fallen from the sky, moved at the center of it all. His every strike lit the battlefield. His stolen blade burned with alien power, yet in his hands it felt like something older, something human. A symbol of defiance. Alien captains focused all fire on him. Beams of energy shot from cannons, guided missiles streaked through the sky. The ground shook under the weight of their fury. But when the smoke cleared, he was still standing. His armor cracked, his body bleeding, but his eyes blazed brighter than the suns above. And when the humans saw him unbroken, they too stood taller. "Is this all you've got?" he shouted across the battlefield, his voice carrying like thunder. "Then you will never break us." The humans roared in answer, their voices shaking the enemy lines. For a moment, the aliens hesitated. That single hesitation was enough. Humans charged again, striking with fury born from years of pain. Weapons stolen from alien dead fired back against their makers. Blades clashed, shields shattered, and for the first time, alien soldiers began to fear. Up in orbit, alien generals panicked. Their fleets had surrounded Earth like hunters circling prey. Now they watched as prey turned into predator. "Retreat is not an option," one shouted. "Then tell them to die where they stand," another growled. "But they're already breaking." The council chambers across the galaxy were silent, millions watching through live transmissions. Entire worlds leaned forward, unable to believe their eyes. They had thought the humans finished. They had mocked their weakness. Now, the same species was teaching them all a lesson. Humans do not surrender. The impossible soldier raised his blade again, even as blood dripped from his wounds. "They thought they could erase us," he said, his voice quiet yet carrying to every ear. "But hear me now, we are not done. We will never be done. Even if every city falls, even if every ship burns, even if only one human remains standing, humanity fights." His words struck deeper than any weapon. Even the aliens felt it, the weight of his spirit. A spirit that could not be broken. The tide surged again. Humans, exhausted yet unyielding, fought with the strength of legends. They did not fight for victory. They fought because it was their nature. Because survival was not enough, defiance was survival. An alien commander, desperate and furious, threw himself into the fray. He was twice the size of the human soldier, armored in the strongest alloys, wielding a weapon that had slain dozens. His roar shook the battlefield. But when he struck, the human caught the blow with his burning blade. Sparks lit the air as metal clashed against energy. The alien pressed forward, certain he would crush the fragile warrior. Then the human whispered, almost calmly, "You forgot one thing." The alien snarled, "What?" The human's eyes blazed. "I don't fight alone." At that moment, dozens of humans leapt into the battle, striking the alien from every side. Weapons pierced, fire burned, and in seconds, the mighty commander fell, his armor broken, his roar silenced. The battlefield froze. Both sides stared at the fallen alien giant. Then, slowly, the humans raised their weapons high, their voices rising in unison. "For Earth." The sound echoed through the heavens. Alien soldiers broke. Entire units threw down their weapons, retreating in chaos. The once perfect encirclement crumbled. Earth was not finished. The humans were not broken. The unbroken spirit had risen. And the galaxy was watching, terrified, and in awe. The sky burned. Alien warships hung above Earth like dark gods, their cannons glowing with enough power to level continents. They had been the giants of the galaxy, unstoppable, unshaken, feared by all. But now, those giants trembled. On the surface, the battlefield had turned. Alien soldiers fled, their lines broken, their morale shattered. Humans, once thought extinct, stood tall amid fire and ruins. Blooded, bruised, yet unbroken. And at the center stood the man who had fallen from the sky. His armor was scarred, his blade cracked, but his spirit burned hotter than ever. Every alien eye was fixed on him, and every human followed his lead. Above, the alien fleets prepared their final strike. If Earth would not die by soldiers, then Earth would burn under the fire of the heavens. "Target their cities. End this now," an alien admiral barked. But even as the massive cannons aligned, something unexpected happened. Human ships appeared. Not thousands. Not even hundreds. Just a handful stolen vessels, patched together with alien scraps, manned by crews who had no right to still be alive. Yet here they came, engines screaming, diving into the teeth of fleets that dwarfed them. The galaxy gasped. It was suicide. But humans do not measure battles by numbers. They measure by spirit. The small fleet struck like lightning, tearing into alien formations. Explosions ripped across the void. Giants fell, one after another, to prey they had once mocked. On the ground, the impossible soldier looked up at the burning sky. He knew what it meant. Humanity was no longer fighting to survive. Humanity was fighting to win. Alien generals panicked. Close ranks. Crush them before they break us apart. But it was too late. The humans had found their rhythm. Every explosion in orbit shook alien hearts. Every broken ship proved that giants could fall. On the battlefield, alien soldiers looked to the skies and lost all courage. If their fleets, their gods of war, could be broken, then what hope did they have on the ground? Many dropped their weapons. Others fled. The line collapsed. The impossible soldier raised his blade one final time. His voice cut through the roar of war. Giants fall. Empires crumble. But humanity endures. With a roar, he charged. The humans followed, their cries filling the air like thunder. The aliens could not stand against it. They broke completely. Soldiers ran. Commanders abandoned their posts. War machines were left to rust in the dirt. The giants had fallen. And the galaxy had watched every second. In council chambers across star systems, rulers and delegates sat frozen. For years, they had mocked humans as fragile, foolish, unworthy of respect. Now they watched the impossible, a broken world rising from ashes and striking down empires greater than themselves. Whispers spread like fire. If humans can defeat them, what happens when humans come for us? The message was clear. Humanity had not been erased. Humanity had not been forgotten. Humanity had returned. And this time, the galaxy would never laugh again. The man who had fallen from the sky stood at the center of the battlefield, surrounded by survivors. His body was broken, yet his eyes shone with victory. He did not smile. He did not cheer. He only whispered words that every human heard, words that would echo across the stars. This is not the end. This is our beginning. And with that, the banner of Earth, torn, burned, but still standing, was raised above the ruins. The giants had fallen. The galaxy would never forget.